Rain pattered against the metal hull of Nexus Station, each drop sizzling as it hit the heat shields. Vex Mercer pulled his collar higher, shielding himself from the acidic moisture that occasionally breached the environmental barriers. The lower levels of the station always leaked during the planet's rain season. Another day, another collection, he muttered, checking his datapad. 3 names remained, but one made him pause. Lyra Vale, Sector 7, Pod 328. A single note attached. Astralan female, 2 dependents, spouse deceased. Vex sighed. He hated collections involving children, but Dravencorp didn't care about circumstances, only credits. Taking a final drag from his cigarette, he flicked it into a puddle and headed towards Sector 7. Pod 328 was like most refugee housing, cramped, dimly lit and barely maintained. Vex rapped his knuckles against the door. 3 sharp knocks that echoed metallically. The door slid open slightly, revealing a female Astralan. Her purple skin caught the corridor's harsh lighting, shimmering slightly with an iridescent quality. Large, luminous eyes regarded him warily. Lyra Vale? Vex asked, though he knew the answer. Yes. Her voice carried a melodic quality despite her obvious tension. Dravencorp sent me. You're 4 months behind on your housing payments. The door opened wider, revealing a tiny living space. 2 small Australian children peered from behind their mother, their skin a lighter shade of purple, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. I know why you're here, Lyra said softly. Please, not in front of my children. Vex hesitated, then nodded. Professional courtesy was rare in his line of work, but something about her dignity moved him. Nari Elian, go to the sleep corner, Lyra instructed. The children reluctantly obeyed, though they continued watching Vex with unblinking eyes. You owe 7,000 credits, Vex stated flatly. Dravencorp wants payment or eviction. I can pay, Lyra replied, surprising him. She reached into a hidden compartment and produced a credit chip. The full amount. Vex took the chip, scanning it with his datapad. The funds transferred immediately. This wasn't the usual outcome. Desperate families rarely produced full payment. May I ask how you managed this? Curiosity got the better of him. Lyra's hand unconsciously moved to her chest. We all make sacrifices for family. Something in her movement caught Vex's attention. A faint scar peeked from beneath her collar, fresh, surgical. You sold something, he realized aloud. A sad smile crossed her lips. Tomorrow, I won't remember why it mattered. She glanced toward her children. But they will still have a home. As Vex turned to leave, the younger child approached him. Mister, will you help Mama? She's going to forget how to love us. The words stopped. Vex cold. He knew about Astralan physiology, their dual hearts, one physical, one emotional. The emotional core could be harvested, fetching high prices on the black market. Elian. Lyra called sharply, then with a softer tone. Go back to your brother. Vex looked between Lyra and her children, a cold realization settling in his stomach. The collection was complete. His job was done. He should walk away. Instead, he found himself asking, who bought your core? Lyra's gaze met his, hollow yet somehow still proud. Collector Seth. The procedure is tomorrow. Vex nodded and left without another word. But his mind was already racing, calculating risks and possibilities. For the first time in years, Vex Mercer was considering breaking the rules. The Neon District hummed with activity as Vex made his way through the crowded market. Collector Seth's medical facility operated from the back of an old cargo bay, its entrance hidden behind a facade of legitimate commerce. Vex had delivered debtors here before, never questioning what happened inside. Today was different. Well. The famous Vex Mercer, croaked Seth as Vex entered the dimly lit room. The collector was a hunched figure with augmented eyes that clicked mechanically as they focused. Draven send you with another specimen? Information, Vex replied coolly. The Australian emotional core. I need to know what happens to it. Seth laughed, a sound like metal scraping metal. Suddenly developed an ethical code. Have we? Since when do debt collectors care about merchandise? Just curious about the process. Fascinating organs, Seth moved to a terminal, pulling up schematics. The Australian evolutionary path created a secondary heart that processes emotional responses. Once removed, the specimen remains fully functionological, efficient, but incapable of emotional connection. Vex kept his expression neutral, and the core itself viable for approximately 72 hours outside the host. Then it's worthless. Seth's augmented eyes whirred. Why the interest? And who's the buyer? You know better than to ask that. Seth studied him. Though it might interest you to know your employer authorized the purchase, Vex felt his stomach tighten. Dravencorp wasn't just collecting debts, they were creating circumstances where desperate Australians would sell their emotional cores. How much? Vex asked suddenly. Excuse me? How much for the core? Seth's laughter turned genuine. You can't afford it. And why would you want it? Transplantation to humans is impossible. The emotional overload would drive you insane. I didn't ask for a medical opinion. Seth's eyes narrowed. 15,000 credits. Non-negotiable. Vex left without responding, his mind already calculating. He had 8,000 in savings, and his collection bonus would add another 3,000. Not enough. Back in his cramped quarters, Vex accessed his terminal and pulled up restricted medical files. There was a procedure experimental and dangerous that could temporarily bond an Australian core to a human host. A neural buffer could prevent immediate overload, but the risk of permanent psychological damage was high. His terminal chimed with an incoming message from Draven. Collection confirmation. Lyra Vale. Extraction scheduled. 0600, tomorrow. Attendance required. Vex stared at the message. As a senior collector, he was expected to witness the procedure to ensure the merchandise was obtained. That night, Vex couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the children's faces, hearing the little one's voice. She's going to forget how to love us. At 0400, Vex made his decision. He emptied his savings, packed a small bag, and made 2 calls, one to an underground doctor who owed him a favor, and another to a transport pilot. The rain had stopped. When Vex reached pod 328, he knocked softly. Lyra opened the door. Her expression already flatter than yesterday. The pre-procedure drugs had begun their work, dampening emotional responses. Collection isn't scheduled until 0600, she stated. I'm not here for collection, Vex replied. I'm here to offer an alternative. She studied him, her once expressive eyes calculating. Explain. There's a way to save your core, but we need to leave now. He glanced at the sleeping children. All of you, why would you help us? It was a logical question, when Vex had asked himself repeatedly. Because some debts aren't meant to be collected, he answered, and some payments are too high. Dr. Merrick's clinic occupied the forgotten maintenance level of an abandoned mining platform. The air smelled of antiseptic and rust. You understand the risks? Dr. Merrick asked, preparing a neural adapter that resembled a metallic spider. This procedure has a 40% survival rate. Even if you survive, you'll experience her emotions at triple intensity. Just do it. Vex replied, watching Lyra and her children in the adjacent room. The extraction had been scheduled 4 hours ago. Dravencorp would be hunting them. Her emotional core will bind to your nervous system, creating a temporary host environment. If all goes well, we can reimplant it in 48 hours. After her neural pathways had been reconstructed, Vex nodded, his jaw tight. And her children? Astralan family bonds are unique, Merrick explained. They'll sense their mother's emotions through you. It might help stabilize her during recovery. The procedure began with searing pain as the neural adapter fused with Vex's spinal column. When Merrick removed Lyra's emotional cora, luminescent purple organ pulsing with bioluminescent veins, connected it to the adapter. Vex's world exploded. Love, fear, grief, joy emotions crashed through him in overwhelming waves. He could feel Lyra's love for her children so fierce it felt like his chest might burst. He experienced her grief for her dead partner. Memories of holding her babies for the first time. The terror of raising them alone when Vex regained consciousness. He found Nari and Elian sitting beside his bed, their small hands touching his. "We can feel Mama through you," Elian whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. Vex tried to speak, but another wave of emotional Lyra's concern for her children washed through him. Tears streamed down his face unbidden. "Does it hurt?" Nari asked, the older and more serious of the two. "No," Vex managed, though it wasn't entirely true. The intensity was overwhelming, but beneath the storm of sensation was something he hadn't felt in years. Connection. In the recovery room, Lyra sat perfectly still, her expression blank. Without her emotional core, she was like a living computer, functional but empty. "Your children are safe," Vex told her, his voice unsteady as her emotions continued to course through him. "That is acceptable," she replied mechanically. "Though your current physical state appears suboptimal," Vex laughed despite himself, feeling the echo of affection she would have felt. "That's one way to put it." "Your assistance is illogical," Lyra observed. "You have jeopardized your employment and physical well-being for individuals unrelated to you." "Some things matter more than logic," Vex replied, another wave of her motherly love emphasizing his point as it washed through him. A proximity alarm blared suddenly. Dr. Merrick rushed into the room. "Dravencorp enforcers," he announced grimly. "They've tracked you." Vex struggled to his feet, fighting against the emotional current still surging through him. "How long until the core can be reimplanted?" "At least 24 more hours," Merrick replied. "Then we need to move," Vex decided, her determination now his. "Lyra, can you travel?" "My physical capabilities are unimpaired," she responded. As they prepared to flee, Vex caught sight of his reflection. His eyes now shimmered with the same bioluminescent quality as Lyra's. Emotional Cora, visible sign of their connection. Vex Elian tugged at his hand. "Mama loves you now. I can feel it, through the storm of borrowed emotions." Vex felt it too, the beginning of something unexpected, something that felt remarkably like hope. The maintenance tunnels beneath Nexus Station stretched 4 kilometers, a forgotten labyrinth where station security rarely ventured. Vex led their small group through the darkness. Every step, a battle against the emotional maelstrom inside him. "How much further?" Nari asked, his small hand gripping Vex's tightly. "Not far," Vex assured him, feeling Lyra's instinctive maternal comfort surge through the connection. "My friend has a safe house in the old hydroponic section." Elian skipped ahead, seemingly unburdened by their situation. Lyra watched her younger son with analytical detachment. "His behavior is inefficient," she observed. "It expends unnecessary energy." "He's a child," Vex replied, a wave of Lyra's maternal tenderness contradicting her current logical assessment. "Children play, even when running from danger." A curious perspective from a debt collector, Lyra noted. Vex winced as memories flooded him. Lyra's memories of other collectors who had threatened her family before him. He felt her past fear, her determination to protect her children at any cost. "I wasn't always a collector," he admitted. "Once I was a station security officer." "What changed?" The question was asked without emotion. "Purely for information? I enforced the rules until I realized who made them," Vex answered. "Then I chose the wrong side anyway, 'cause it was easier." They reached an abandoned hydroponic bay where Rika's security days had created a hidden sanctuary that secured a hidden sanctuary. Shelves of actual growing plants concealed the living space behind. "You look terrible, Rika," greeted Vex, her eyes widening at his bioluminescent gaze. The connection is progressing faster than expected. As Rika examined the neural adapter at the base of his skull, Vex felt another wave crash through him this time. A complex blend of gratitude and something deeper, warmer. Feelings Lyra had begun developing toward him. "The children should rest," Rika suggested, showing them to a small room with actual beds, a luxury on the station. Later, as the children slept, Vex found Lyra observing the hydroponics with scientific interest. "These are inefficiently arranged," she noted. "The light distribution is suboptimal." Vex smiled, feeling the echo of her former delight at growing things. "You were a botanist once," he realized aloud. "Yes, before the corporation claimed our settlement. I cultivated hybrid food sources. She tilted her head. How did you know? I can feel everything, Vex explained, the intensity of the connection making his voice unsteady. Your love for your children, your grief for your partner, your passion for growing things, even how you're beginning to feel about me. For a moment, something flickered in Lyra's eyes, a ghost of emotion. Your facial temperature has increased by 1.2 degrees, she observed. A sign of emotional distress or attraction in humans. Vex stepped closer. Both, maybe. Before he could say more, Rika burst into the room. Draven's enforcers are searching Sector 6. They're getting closer. How soon can we complete the reimplantation? Vex asked. The neural regeneration is progressing well, Rika replied. Scanning Lyra. But we need at least 12 more hours. We don't have 12 hours, Vex stated. Another alarm blaring in the distance, Lyra looked between them. The logical solution is for me to surrender. You can escape with my children. No. Vex felt her maternal protectiveness surge through him like a physical force. We stay together. Rika's communication device chimed. It's my contact and security. Draven himself is leading the search. This isn't just about debt collection anymore. Vex wasn't surprised. An Australan emotional core was valuable. But the real prize was the neural adapter technology, military grade, illegal, and potentially worth millions. We need a diversion, Vex decided. Something to draw them away, while we move to a more secure location. As they planned their escape, Leon approached, his eyes wide with childish understanding. Your heart is talking to Mama's heart, he observed, touching Vex's chest. They're becoming friends. Despite everything, Vex smiled. Yes, I suppose they are. When Mama gets her heart back, Elian asked, will she remember being inside you? I don't know, Vex admitted. Elian nodded solemnly. She will. Hearts remember everything important. The abandoned docking bay had once serviced military vessels. During the border wars. Now it offered their last hope a smuggler's ship, waiting to take them off station. Just need to reach Bay 17, Vex muttered, checking the passage ahead. The neural adapter at the base of his skull burned constantly now. Lyra's emotions so completely integrated with his own that he could hardly distinguish between them. Your physiological signs indicate severe strain, Lyra observed. The probability of neural collapse is increasing. Vex knew she was right. The borrowed emotions were overwhelming his system. Twice in the past hour, he'd lost consciousness briefly, coming back to find Nari and Elian hovering over him anxiously. We're almost there, he assured them, though the path ahead remained uncertain. The children walked between them, Elian clutching his mother's hand despite her emotional absence. Nari stayed close to Vex, sensing his mother's presence through their connection. As they reached the final corridor, klaxons blared. Emergency barriers began dropping throughout the sector. Station lockdown, Vex realized. They're sealing all exits. They sprinted toward Bay 17, the door already beginning to close. Vex pushed the children through first, then Lyra. As he prepared to follow, a voice stopped him. Quite the disappointing performance, Mercer. Draven stood 10 meters back, flanked by security officers. The corporation head was immaculately dressed as always, looking incongruous in the gritty surroundings. I offered you advancement, recognition, Draven continued. Instead, you throw everything away for what? Some alien and her spawn? Vex felt Lyra's fierce maternal love surge through him, giving him strength. For a family, he corrected. Something you wouldn't understand. The adapter technology alone is worth millions, Draven replied. Give it up, and maybe I let you live. Not happening. Vex backed toward the bay door, which had slowed but not completely closed. Draven signaled his officers. Take him. Alive if possible, but secure that adapter. What happened next unfolded in a blur of motion. As the officers advanced, Lyra-logical, emotionless Lyris lipped back through the gap in the door and placed herself between Vex and the officers. Your conflict is with this human, she stated flatly. I am the more valuable asset, Lyra. No. Vex reached for her, but she moved forward with mechanical precision. It is the logical solution, she replied. My children require protection. You can provide it. Before either could say more, Rika appeared on the other side of the barrier, holding what looked like a makeshift detonator. Nobody's staying behind, she announced, triggering the device. The explosion wasn't large, but it was precisely targeted, severing the locking mechanism of the bay door. As security systems failed, the door slid fully open. Rika grabbed Lyra, pulling her through while Vex stumbled after them. The smuggler's ship waited, engines already running. They barely made it aboard before it detached, accelerating away from the station. We need to complete the procedure now, Rika insisted, once they were safely in orbit. The neural adapter is failing. In the ship's cramped medical bay, Rika worked quickly to extract the emotional core from Vex's system. The separation was agony, leaving him feeling hollow and bereft. He watched through pain-blurred vision as Rika carefully reimplanted the core into Lyra's chest. Will it work? Nari asked, holding his brother's hand tightly. We'll know soon, Rika replied. Hours passed. Vex drifted in and out of consciousness, his system struggling to readjust after the intense emotional connection. When he finally woke fully, Elian sat beside his bed. Mama's awake, the boy announced. She remembers everything. Vex followed Elian to the ship's common area, where Lyra stood by a viewport, watching stars streak by. When she turned, her eyes had regained their luminous quality, alive with emotion. You carried my heart, she said simply. It was heavier than I expected, Vex replied with a small smile. She approached him, her movements no longer mechanical but fluid and purposeful. You felt everything I feel? Everything, he confirmed. Then you know, Lyra took his hand, placing it over her chest where the emotional core once again beat in harmony with her physical heart. You know that some connections remain, even after hearts are returned to their rightful places. Around them, the ship accelerated toward distant stars and new beginnings. Behind them, Nexus Station grew smaller, along with the life Vex had once thought was all he deserved. Where are we going? Nari asked, joining them at the viewport. Vex looked at Lyra, feeling the echo of her emotions still resonating within him. Fainter now, but indelible. Somewhere we can grow things, he answered. Somewhere new, Lyra's hand remained in his, her purple skin shimmering in the starlight. Somewhere we can be a family, she added, her voice once again carrying the melodic quality that had first caught his attention. Ilian climbed onto Vex's lap, completely at ease. I told you hearts remember everything important, he said with childish wisdom. As the ship carried them toward an uncertain future, Vex realized the truth in the child's words. Some connections once formed transcended physical boundaries, becoming something as vast and endless as the stars themselves.